Hey guys, in this video we'll be continuing with the Python video tutorials. We'll be going over the continuation of string methods and string operations. So we'll be going over, so I guess kind of advanced string operations. So we'll be working, so first we'll be talking about the index error exception. Or index error exceptions will occur if you try to use an index that is out of range for a particular string. So for example, the string Boston has 6 characters in it. So the valid indexes are 0 through 5. So the valid negative indexes are -1 through -6, so that's good information to know. Remember the end of the string, we just talked about that. So a negative index in the string starts at -1 at the end. And we'll go to -6. So instead of starting at 0, basically it starts at -1, or -0, it starts at -1, I guess, because there is no -0. And 0 is already taken in the list, in the string index or any list index as well. So I guess it's not a bad idea to start at -1. Because it's 1 minus the n, so you can think of it like that. Maybe it's a good way for you to remember that it's 1 minus the n. So the following, basically we'll just do an example here of a code that causes an index error exception. So it's the exact same thing basically as a list, I believe. It's not like for example in Java it's called a string index out of bounds exception, I believe, something like that. So I think in Python it's the exact same exception. I think it's the exact same exception as we said before. So we'll just have, for example, so in the IDE now in pycharm, I'll be writing some code. So we'll just say city str points to, we'll call it Boston. Or we can have maybe another city, whatever. We'll call it just call it Richmond. So we'll have Richmond here. City string points to Richmond. It's the city I'm from. So we'll print that. I know there's a lot of Richmonds out there. Richmond, Virginia, Richmond, Toronto, Richmond Hill, Richmond, BC, probably more. So I think there's a Richmond in Coach Carter, whatever city they're from, in the movie. So anyways, here, so we have a city named Richmond, and we're gonna print out, well, how many indexes do we have? So let's just print out, obviously, a big or a larger index that we have, larger than the whole string. So we'll have city str of string index, let's just say some random, like 100 or 1000, whatever you want. Just pick any large number. It can be a random large number, even something like this, whatever. So we should get an index error exception when we print that. So it's traceback here, as you can see in the red, hopefully. Traceback most recent call last, so in this file, in line 2 in module, print on that line, which is the exact same line here, index error, string index out of range. So same idea as a list. So this type of error is most likely to happen when a loop incorrectly iterates beyond the end of the string. For example, if you use a number in the loop, or in a while loop or anything. So this is, so we can have another example here. we can have maybe I points to 0. Then we can have while I is less than some large number. It's going to obviously hit before it gets to that large number, because there's only so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this string index is 0 to 7, where D is index 7 or -1. So that's the thing you have to remember. A string can also be a positive index or a negative index. So basically, once it hits 8, it's gonna, once that I increments to 8, it's gonna cause that index error exception. So if I try to print city str of string index I, and increment I points to I plus 1, and run that, we should get the index error. So printed Richmond, it was able to print out Richmond, and then it got that error. So if we change that to less than 8, might actually not cause the exception, because it's still less than 8. So 0, yeah, so 7 is still less than 8. So if we can say less than or equal to 8, which I think you can say in Python. Yeah, so therefore less than equal to, if we haven't gone over that before, hopefully we have, means that I is basically less than or equal to 8, which means that it's going to go till 8. It's going to be equal to 8 in that case. So if we go less than 8, it's going to, the iteration's only going to go to I is equal to 7. If you go I is less than or equal to 8, then the iteration of I is eventually going to equal to 8, which will make that raise the exception. Or in another case, we can go less than 9, which will be the same thing as less than or equal to 8, which also will raise the exception. So I is less than or equal to 9 is the same thing as I is less than or equal to 8 in code, pretty much. Even maybe even in like normal math as well, it might be the same, but I know for sure in code that it's the same. So you can test it out for yourself. So we'll be moving on here to the next example. So now I'll be going over the len function. So we've already done this. We've used it before. So you can use it in strings, basically anything. You can use it in different things. So when we learned about it earlier, you learned that the len function, which returns the length of a sequence. So we said a string is a sequence. I believe we said that before. So the len function can also be used to get the length of a string. So strings are a special type of sequence that can store only characters and have a special notation. So we'll just leave the sequence idea at that. I wouldn't worry about it too much, because you use strings in all kinds of programming languages, so just try to stick with the common theory of strings across all programming languages. That'll help you in the long run. Because at your, like, for example, your next project or your next job, you won't know what language you're going to use. Usually, you just apply to a bunch of them, I assume. So anyways, we'll continue with this. So the len function can also be used to get the length of a string. So the following code demonstrates. So if we have a string city points to Richmond, we can just keep that. Excuse me. So we have city str points to the string Richmond. Then we can say str size. So maybe the string size points to the len function of passing in city str. Then we can print the str size. So it gives us 8, as we know. So 1, 2. So remember, the length is different than the index. So length starts at 1, index starts at 0, so just remember that. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the index will go from 0 to length minus 1. So the statement calls the len function passing the city str variable as a parameter. The function returns the value 8 in this case, which is the length of the string Richmond. The value is assigned to the string size, str size variable. The len function is especially so it's useful to prevent loops from iterating beyond the end of the string, of course. So you can use the length, you can use range. I prefer to use length because length is common across all programming languages. In other languages it's just like this, length, instead of however you spell that. Or you can go like str size.length in different languages. But in this case it's just len. So same idea. So we can show that example here. We can have city points to Richmond, index points to, I points to 0, while I is less than the len of city str. We can print out we can print out the city str of string index I, and we can say I plus equals 1 this time. Save and run. There we go. We printed out the string. But of course, before we did, if we just choose a random number like 1010 or something, if you try to get the exact number of the indexes and you're one off or something, you're a few off, you can raise that exception, the index error exception. So basically, the theory is to use the len function to make sure that exception doesn't happen, or that error doesn't occur in your code. So it prevents loops from iterating beyond the end of the string, as we just mentioned. You can see how the loop iterates as long as I is less than the length of the string. This is because the index of the last character in the string is always one less than the length of the string. So we'll probably just leave it there because we're going to be going on to more topics. I want to be able to just keep the videos topics to just a few topics. The next one's kind of long, so it might take a while. So we'll probably just leave it there for this one. So thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, you can like the channel, subscribe to the channel. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more programming or investing tutorials, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.